As the title of our paper implies, I'd like to tell you the story of 3 regions. The 3 geographical regions are important for pharmaceutical production because these regions, namely Japan, the United States, and Europe, are the founder members of a globally recognized pharmaceutical body known as the International Council for Harmonization, or ICH. The ICH is responsible for quality guidelines for pharmaceutical production worldwide. We all know that pharmaceutical products must be produced to the highest quality standards as they are critical for human health. Our review paper is an examination on how quality culture specifically, has an impact on production and influences levels of operational excellence, something we refer to as OPEX. The purpose of the study on quality culture and production was to identify cultural traits that are able to support quality management practices in industry so that ultimately a conceptual model of quality management practices can be developed for South Africa. During our systematic review, we examined 2,078 papers. We used the search strings pharmaceutical production, drug production, operational excellence, and the names of the regions. We applied inclusion as well as exclusion criteria. We used an activity theory approach to perform our review to ensure that we conducted a consistent comparative examination. The activity theory approach consists of 7 elements as seen here. 3 of the elements are known elements, and the 4 remaining elements are unknown elements. The unknown elements will be discovered or uncovered by examining the 3 known elements. The known elements in activity theory are the activity, in our case pharmaceutical production, the goal of the activity, which in our case is OPEX, and the final known element is the subjects, in our case the tripartite, Japan, the US, and Europe. The remaining unknown elements are rules and regulations, tools, and stakeholders and roles and responsibilities. In our paper, we decided to combine stakeholders with roles and responsibilities. Thus, our study had 3 focus areas, which were: first, the effect of culture on the selection of tools leading to OPEX. Second, the impact of culture on rules and regulations around pharmaceutical production in each region. And finally, the culture of stakeholders, their roles and responsibilities, and how this impacts pharmaceutical production and OPEX. Activity theory allows for the identification of tensions. Tensions are important as they highlight areas where transformation is required. We also used a tool known as the Organizational Culture Analysis Instrument, referred to as OCI, to help us with our examination of culture. The OCI characterizes culture into 4 architects depending on 2 dimensions. The first dimension looks at flexibility or rigidness of a culture. The second dimension considers the inward or outward orientation of a culture type. If a culture is concerned with internal affairs and is flexible, this culture is referred to as the clan culture, where teamwork is valued. If a culture is flexible but outwardly faced, it is referred to as an adhocracy culture, where innovation is valued. If, on the other hand, a culture is rigid and inwardly faced, it is a hierarchical culture where rules are valued. And lastly, if it is rigid but outwardly faced, it is a market culture where competition is valued. Progressing to our study, in the first focus area, we found a wide array of quality management tools that were employed by all regions to secure OPEX. The tools used were similar and in some cases identical. However, the climate in which the tools were used was different from region to region. Climate is an important component of culture. In Japan, we noted a very hierarchical culture. This was due to the very ranked nature of Japanese society. They have control-orientated values. This differed to Europe, where we discovered the top 10 pharma organizations are multinational, even though control-orientated traits were detected in the tools they use. There was much greater focus on people management and sharing. Moving across the pond to the United States, who are regarded as the world leaders in pharmaceutical production, we saw not only elements of a hierarchical culture and also elements of an orientation towards valuing people, we also saw traits of advocacy and a strong market-driven approach, essentially a balance. A very similar pattern emerged when we evaluated the second and third focus areas of our study, looking at rules and regulations as well as stakeholders and their responsibilities. Because Japan had been completely devastated in World War II, the government adopted a very protective stance. Japanese culture is inwardly focused and controlled, and this inadvertently negatively impacted OPEX. In Europe, we once again saw lots of collaboration between European governments and a very strong sense of clan culture. While in the US, there's a balance of culture types, which we believe is part of the reason for their success. The ultimate finding of this literature review is that culture is an unseen force that directs the behavior of people in an organization. When managing quality to achieve OPEX, culture must not be overlooked. A balance of culture types supports OPEX in the pharmaceutical industry. Thus, when an OPEX model is developed for SA Pharma, quality management practices must be aligned to all 4 culture types. Thank you for your kind attention.